Good evening and welcome to Cooking Like a Boss with the Community Church. This week we have the fabulous, the amazing Ali Rothwell, showing us how to make some interesting treats. Take it away, Ali.
Okay, so it's turned out that bonfire night is the same night as the first night of our national lockdown. And I thought rather than change it and do something different, it's supposed to be really good weather, so we can get outside, you can have a fire pit, you could have a bonfire if you've got space, find some sparklers, and all the things that we're going to cook are designed to be eaten with your fingers. So it's a different way of eating different types of food, and it's a good way of having fun. Can't be together. You could set up a Zoom evening, you could share with family and friends, you could pick something and cook it and share it with other people. One of these in particular you need to share because there's so much sugar in it, it's unbelievable. But to start with, we're going to start with parking, which tends to only be used, I think, for bonfire night, but it's got great flavours in it and should really be eaten all year. So the first thing we're going to do is sort out the tin. This is a grease-proof tin, but in my experience, it's well worth making sure that you do far more than that, particularly with parking, which is really sticky. So you have a piece of grease-proof paper, you put it in the tin, score around the edge with your fingertips, and then you simply cut it to shape. And this will make sure that you'll be able to get it out of the tin. It won't stick to the top. So we cut down this. If you haven't got baking paper, you just need to make sure you really grease it really, really well. There's a lot of treacle in this recipe and it will stick quite easily. Okay, so you start off, you're going to grease the tin.
Just greasing the bottom there?
No, I will eventually do the sides as well.
One thing I forgot to mention is that we have the fabulous Mike Rothwell on the side to be chief stirrer. Oh, there he is. Chief stirrer, chief prompt. So here he is too.
Worth making sure you get right into the corners, particularly because this is square and deep. So much as though I was going to be very good and not use my fingers. If I was doing this at home, this is exactly what I would do. You then put in some flour. Use the flour to work your way around the box. Okay. I can't turn it the other way around. So it ends up greased and floured. If you cut some strips of baking paper, you can then make handles to help you get it out once it's cooked. So they go across the bottom. So if you make like a lattice work, so you've got handles on both sides, you don't need to worry about making sure it's all folded in because the mixture will do that. And then the piece that you've got from earlier, you just lay on the top. Okay. Right, in order to make the actual parking, I have slightly increased the ingredients. This is a slightly larger tin than was on the instructions. So I've put an extra half the quantity of everything in. So I'm putting in 6 ounces of self-raising flour. This has also got in it a bit of baking powder and 2 teaspoons of ginger. So that goes in. I've then got 6 ounces of oatmeal, 6 ounces of brown sugar, and you just stir that together to start off with. So that's all your dry ingredients in together. The great thing with this is that whereas with things like sponge cakes, chiffon cakes, things like that, you have to be really delicate with it. With parking, you need to really mix everything really well. Excuse me. So then we have wet ingredients that we need to warm together. So we've got 3 ounces of butter, partly chopped. And then we need treacle. With anything like treacle or syrup or anything that's sticky, rather than trying to weigh it out onto scales, it's much better to weigh the tin and then take out whatever you actually want to use. So we need to end up with 6 ounces of this. So these scales, obviously really high tech. These were a present for my parents when I first went to uni. And they cost 50p from a car boot sale. I have no idea if they weigh accurately, but it seems to work. So I'm assuming it's okay.
They've served you well for this long. So.
So people offer to buy me new scales and I really don't want them. It's a great remembrance for me of particularly my dad. Okay, treacle. If you want a slightly lighter parking, you can use syrup or some syrup. But if you put syrup in, it's not as gloopy as treacle. So you put a bit less in. And that's a bit of trial and error, really. But we're going to use all treacle. Excuse me. It's great because when the cold nights start, things like treacle and mixed spice and ginger and cinnamon are real winter things that you can add custard to. Whereas in the summer, you go more for almond and vanilla, that type of thing. So as you can see, this takes a bit of time. So, okay, so that's butter and treacle. And then we just need milk. So I need 7 tablespoons of milk. Any milk, doesn't matter what type of milk. It's a lighter thing for me. Okay. And then you just need to warm these through.
And your assistant manages to light the gas.
Good way to do it. Teamwork. Oh, it's that one. Slight technical hitch. Okay.
And that's why I'm not doing the cooking. How you like the cooking?
Okay. You want to make sure that you don't get the treacle in particular sticking on the bottom. And what you're trying to do is just get it all to melt together. You can do this in the microwave. I prefer to do it on the stove because I can see what's going on. A bit like chocolate, if you do it in the microwave, it's much harder to tell when it's ready. So it goes an interesting shade to start with, but eventually it will mix in. Up a bit. Which one is up? Nothing to say. Okay, so you're just waiting for this to all melt together. So the butter's taking a while to melt. Ideally use a non-stick pan if you have them, but the important thing is just to keep it moving so it doesn't catch at the bottom. Nearly there. Some recipes, when you do this, you have to wait for it to cool. Parking, you don't need to worry. You can just put it straight in, which is great. So you're trying to make sure it's all melted together without it sticking, without it starting to boil. I should have said you can use margarine rather than butter if you want to. It gives it a slightly less rich flavour at the end. Okay. So very simply, you make a well in the middle, pour it in. Okay, give it a good stir. As I said before, you can't over stir this, so you don't need to be worried about beating stuff out of it. Once it's partly mixed, you add your egg, beaten egg.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting egg to be the next ingredient for some reason.
I think it binds it all together.
Yeah.
I'm not a technical cook, so I don't quite know how it works, but then. So this is quite a dark mixture because of all the treacle. As I say, you can use syrup instead if you prefer. The advantage of using a glass bowl is that you can make sure it's fully mixed. Because when you think it's done, you can check underneath and make sure it's all mixed together. And then you're pouring it into your prepared tin. Just make sure it goes into the corners. And then that's ready to go in the oven. So in the oven at 160. For 50 minutes or so. When you bake things, there's lots of different ways of trying to work out whether it's cooked or not. So some people will look at it, some people touch it, see what it feels like. Some people stick it with a skewer. I listen. So when you think it's cooked, give it plenty of time. When you think it's cooked, if you hold it up to your ears and it's still bubbling, it's not cooked. The only times that you don't do that method is if you've got something like a fruit cake and you don't want it too dry, so you let it bubble a bit still. So if I give you those, would you like to move those out of the way? So in true Blue Peter fashion, that won't cook before we finish. This is one I cooked earlier. So you just make sure it's loosened around the edges. It's quite tough, so it's not a delicate cake. And then hopefully you can just peel off the greaseproof paper, leave it somewhere to cool, and then it's great on its own, or you can have it with custard as well. So that's parking. very helpful having somebody here to give all the rubbish to. Okay, so next one is toffee. So again, first thing to do is make sure you have your receptacle ready. This one's dead simple. You just have to grease a tray. You want something with a lip because you're going to pour boiling candy onto this. I've always found it better using something metal, and you leave it on top of a cake cooling type lid because then you won't damage the surfaces. So you're not going to flour. Sound effects come through. Okay.
So this is the healthiest of the things that you're doing this afternoon now?
Yeah, this is the instant heart attack recipe. Go on, you can. Okay. It's basically similar ingredients to the parkin, so we can use the same saucepan. So this was Mike's mum's secret toffee recipe. Secret, which for over 30 years, I think, I had eaten, but I'd never seen her cook. And she was very, very protective. So I had this assumption that it was a really complicated thing to do, and it's not. It's definitely something you should share because it's got an awful lot of sugar and butter in it. So we're going to start with putting the butter in. So it's 12 ounces of butter, half a pound of sugar. Gets better. Whole tin of condensed milk. You can make this in half quantities, but I don't know what else you do with the condensed milk. So my theory is you make it whole and then you can give half of it away. It's very versatile. You can make it different stickiness or chewiness or snap, which I'll explain when we get further on. So whole tin of condensed milk. We then want more treacle, as if we haven't used enough already. So 1.5 spoonfuls of treacle. Tablespoonfuls, even.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, smells great. Great smell. And you simply put it all in together. See? And then, as if that isn't enough stickiness, you then need syrup. And it's half a pound of syrup. So same system as before. These are really good. Oh, this one doesn't. Some of these have measurements down the side, which really help. So we want half a pound. What's that, 12? Which is 8. And again, you can adjust the quantities of the syrup and the treacle if you want it to taste less rich. You put in more syrup, less treacle. Just to get in there? No. Right. So at this point, Mike is going to be in charge of stirring this. So he is now going to light a grill. It's got way too much syrup in it, never mind. Right. And then I've got somewhere a cooling rack. Hang on, don't move. So it's worth putting your tray on the rack before you start so you don't damage your work surface. Okay, so they're the two sweet things. So we'll move on to savoury. Let's just clear this down a bit so I can see what I'm doing. It's over now.
Sarah, she's stirring like Rothwell.
So what you're looking to do with the toffee, you stir the mixture until everything's melted, wait for it to boil, and then once it's boiled, you're aiming at 20 minutes, but you do need to stir it all the time. Okay, jacket potatoes in skins. I've cooked the jacket potatoes earlier because they take too long. What you're looking to do when you take the potato out is to make sure you get the skin as thin as you can. You're going to serve it in foil, so if you split the bottom, it doesn't really matter, but you're going to eat this with your fingers, so you want to make sure there's no big chunks of potato left around the outside. So all I've done is taken the potato out. If you cook them at about 200 degrees in the oven, if you prick them first, dust them with oil or melted butter, and then make sure you turn them partway through. You can do them in the microwave, but the skins don't end up tasting anywhere near as good. So I've emptied that into the bowl, and in the bowl, I've just added some marge and a bit of milk just to make it soft and squidgy. Topping-wise, or putting stuff in it, the benefit of doing this, although it's fiddly, is you get the flavour all the way through, which is far better when you're trying to pick it up and eat it. And you can use anything that isn't too soft. So I wouldn't suggest you use something like a chili con carne mix or something like that, or you'd have to make it much, much drier in order for it to work properly. So I've got bacon, leek-and mushroom, grated cheese, and then in here, just to show something different, these are pre-roasted vegetables. So this is sweet potato, pumpkin, red onion, carrot, and there's a bit of garlic in there as well. So we'll make a mixture of the two. Well, we won't mix it together, but we'll do both. So you've got the matches. I believe I've got too much syrup in there. So we will get this going. So there's just a bit of oil in the pan to start with. And we're going to fry off the bacon first. I've got oregano, it depends whatever flavour you particularly want to do. And this is a vegetable stock cube with about an inch of water in it, just to give it a bit more taste. So we'll wait for that to cook. I use bat bacon, take most but not all of the fat off. You could use streaky bacon, but then you tend to end up with something that's crunchy and you don't really want it to crunch. Well, I don't want it to crunch. So I don't know how hot this oil is.
Now this is where this job starts to happen, because the smell is starting to waft up as you stir it.
Okay. So this is 4 rashers of bacon. So you're just looking to make sure this is cook through so it's not raw when you add the vegetables.
Problem is you have to wait a long time to be able to lift the spoon.
So that was quite delayed. You don't need to worry about the bacon going brown. You just want to make sure it's cooked so it doesn't look raw at all. And then you add in your vegetables. Healthy bit, vegetables. And you stir those in. The toppings that are on the list, things like this, these are great if you've got too much when you're making something. If you added something like creme fraiche and pasta, you end up with a really good pasta dish. Or you can use it as a base of a pie. I tend to cook too much. So we tend to eat a lot of leftovers in various forms, which is fine.
I feel like comes with raising 3 children.
Yeah. Although we've now just got Jonathan at home and he eats everything, so you don't end up with
I'm sure he won't complain at the leftovers.
Yeah, so you go to the fridge thinking there's a leftover. Gone.
I would turn the thing down a bit. Is it bubbles? Yeah, it's got boiling. Okay, so the toffee mixture is now boiling, so it's 20 minutes, so 10 to 6.
I've got to keep stirring for 20 minutes.
You have, yeah. I give you all the good jobs. You not notice? Okay, so once these vegetables have started to brown, maybe not quite so.
Not so vigorously stir. Well, you see, this is where we need your guidance. So just a gentle stir rather than vigorous.
A stopping it sticking on the bottom stir.
A stopping and sticking on the bottom stir. Rather than a mixing it up stir.
That's me. It's mixed
There are
up
different
already.
types of stirs.
Okay, so once you've got the mushroom and the leek starting to wilt, added the herbs, you can add some stock cube.
Oh, that's a wicked smell.
Toffee.
Yeah, not the stock cube.
Not that you've got a sweet tooth or anything.
Not that I've got a sweet tooth.
Okay, and then this is when we challenge Mike to multitask. Because the other thing we're doing is hot dogs. So we need onion to go with the hot dog. So this is sliced onion rather than chopped, with some fat in the pan. I've lost the matches. Can you stir both at once? Do you
I
think?
can stir both at once. Because apparently I don't need to be vigorously stirring this one.
So which one is that going to be? That one.
This one. Which one do we do?
Oh, for my own cooker. Oh, yes, there we go. Right. Another spoon to stir with.
I have another spoon. Not quite as special as the spoon I'm using, because the spoon I'm using doesn't have a face in it.
Oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. Okay, so we're just waiting for the liquid to boil off a bit. And in the meantime, we will put a bit of the potato into a different bowl. So this has just had raw vegetables in it, so it's fine. Oops. There we go. should be just about all right. Just check that the mushrooms are softened. And then you empty the mixture into the potato, but don't think it's going to need it all. As I say, anything that's left over you can use the following day. Okay, so mix that in. You can make the mixtures in advance. I would suggest that you cook the potatoes on the day. Although they taste really nice fried the following day, if you find that you haven't got any left over. Anyway, spoon. Can you pass me your spoon?
That's good.
That's good. Right, sticky.
That's good. That's good.
Okay, so for the meat ones, take a piece of foil, a potato skin, and then you're simply putting some of the mixture back into the skin. And we're obviously going to do that 6 times. So you can do tuna with sweet corn, onion. You can do completely vegetables. So you can do peppers and courgettes. You can do roasted vegetables. All that you're trying to make sure is the mixture at the end isn't too wet. Oops. How's it going over there?
I'm just thinking about this when it talks about stirring one another up, but I'm not quite sure it's all that in mind. But...
Oops. Okay, so making sure it goes in. You don't have to be too precise because it will, when it's back in the oven to brown off, it will sink to the edges. So this is one, for example, that's got a bit of a hole in, but it really doesn't matter once it's on the foil. The filling's not going to go anywhere. And then you just go back round and fill them up. So just to add in something slightly different, we'll do the last 2 with roasted veg. So we had this, the roasted veg the other day. And this is, so it's already cooked, it's already soft. And it will be in the oven long enough to heat back through. Okay, so for the last 2 potatoes, so you can really make loads of different fillings, different types, different options, all of which taste great fried the following day if you have anything left over. And the final thing, you can never have too much grated and melted cheese. So this is just 2 different types of cheese out of the fridge, nothing particularly special. Good way of using up old bits of cheese that you've got that are getting past their sell-by date. Probably shouldn't say that, should I? But take the mould off. Don't include the mould.
It's a flavour if you put mould in it, you know.
Well, some cheese is mouldy, isn't it?
Yeah,
So-
some cheese looks like it shouldn't be eaten, you know, when it's all blue and mouldy.
Right, so Mike backs off a minute. I can put that in there. Right. Okay, so that's on 180, she says. Yes, that's on 180, and all you're really doing is melting down the cheese, heating up the potato again, because it's, for me, it's been cold. One thing with potatoes is it's tempting to wait until they're cold to try and get the potato out the middle. That is really, really hard. So wear an oven glove. And then as soon as you can physically hold them, take the potato out then. It's much, much easier, which is why I did it earlier. It's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so the final thing, pass the saucepan.
It's just,
Where's the juice for those? No, juice. You should have kept the juice. So these are hot dog sausages, which in theory, cooking their own juice, but somebody's helper threw the juice away. So
this is why I don't do the cooking.
on why you don't put a plastic kettle on a hot oven. But anyway, moving on. So this won't take very long at all. And it's the sort of thing the rest of the year we would never eat, but for some reason, bonfire night, hot dog sausages, really well cooked down onions. That's not the right one. Yay. Really cooked well onions, American style mustard, tomato ketchup. Anything else? Anything else? Having a hot dog. So it's ideal with Thursday supposed to be cold. It's the ideal time to have them. Right, done all that. So what time's that due to finish?
You did say 10 to 6, but I don't
Yeah,
know if
that's
that's quite.
No, it's fine.
That's another 10 minutes.
It's a long time. It's good for your arms. So the onions, Mike's doing a wonderful job, of course. So the onions are sweating down.
You notice a surprise in your voice there. This is the extent of my culinary skills. I can stir onions.
Stir things. I did like that, didn't I? Yes, I did. Okay, so the parking's got about a quarter of an hour to go. So that's all sorted. The potatoes will only take about 10 minutes, which is about the same length of time as the toffee. And these take about 5 minutes, and then we will be ready to eat.
Well, that's just enough time for Kate to ask you some awkward questions. Then.
Yeah. Think some nice awkward questions for Ali. Oh, which of these is your favourite one to eat?
To eat.
Yeah.
Parking.
Parking. And why is that?
Yes. Because it's got all my favourite flavours. I love oatmeal-y, gingery, treacle-y, that type of thing for the winter. Whereas if you ask Mike the same question, you'd get a different answer.
Well, what's your favourite then, Mike?
No, I can go with all of them.
All of them. Spell at the same time. I don't know. Bacon and parking. Oh, okay.
Slightly warmed.
Yeah, yes, I suppose so.
With the custard. You can have it as a dip.
Yeah, dip it in the custard. Love it.
Right, so let's just... So this
What
goes...
anybody watching can't see is the look on Jetson's face at the moment. Because having worked with a professional that is sharing golf, He's now looking in his toys for some of the things we're coming up with.
Oh no.
The beef stew, and it was just so painful to look so amazing. I was like, I want to eat it now.
So as you can see, I'm a messy cook.
Okay.
So parking. So my theory is you put it all on a tray and you take it all outside. That's my theory. Where did the kettle go? So the sausages are starting to boil. Can I go that far? Yeah. The other things on the list are popcorn or crisps, and also salad that you can pick up if you really have to. But I love salad, but it's nice to have some days when you don't have it. And
I'm not sure the salad's going to go with the toffee.
oh, so cheese is all starting to melt. That's good. And the onions are ready.
Turn those off.
I think so, yeah. If you don't want to there we go.
Dark.
I'm doing well with the toffee. So the toffee, Mike shows you the inside of the toffee. So it starts to pull away from the outside of the saucepan, if Jefferson can get that. Yeah? Keep going.
Keep going.
There's lots of ways of testing it. So you can do things like see how it coats the back of a spoon. You can put a bit in cold water and see how soft it is. But I must admit, I never quite work out what that means in terms of how the toffee is going to end up. So if you cook it for about 20 minutes, it suddenly gets to the point where it moves almost on its own as a whole gloop.
Then it sticks to the spoon, and then you can just take it out, don't you? Yeah.
But not when it's boiling hot. But then if you leave it, it will get to the point where you can hit it with a hammer to crack it, but then it's quite crystallized sugar, so it's a different type of taste. Woo! There we go. There's special sound effects when we cook, see. Oh, they look good. So these are all nicely cooked down now. You can make those in advance and just cook them back through. So we're just waiting for you, dear.
Story of your life, dear. Story of your life.
Obviously, the toffee is not going to be ready to eat. It will take...
it's not going to be ready to eat, so we're going to take it home.
It takes a while to cool. We use a ceramic knife eventually to try and cut it. We've broken scissors before trying to cut it. So you wait for it to be cool, and then you just have to score it. You can try scoring it in advance. We've tried all sorts of things, but we're investigating toffee mould, seeing if you can find something you could just pour it straight into. That'd be quite good, but not yet. Yeah. But you don't want it to melt the ice tray, do you? That's the problem.
Good point.
Checking that again. Right. So we're almost there. So tempting as it is to open the oven and have a look at the parking, I'm not going to do that. I am going to resist for a bit longer.
So if you don't open the oven, how do you know when it's talking to you?
We have to wait for, it's supposed to take 50 minutes. So you wait for at least half an hour, 40 minutes. So it's got a while, so it won't be ready. That's okay. Any questions? Have I missed something out? Can you think at all?
Oh, we haven't got any questions in the comments section. We've got a comment from Deb Nolan. Let's give her a shout out. She said, "You didn't make a genie in the tin of treacle." Lol. I think that's what it says. You didn't make a genie in the tin of treacle. Lol. That is our comment for the week.
Okay. I don't know what that means.
I don't know. Maybe it's a typo. maybe we're just not catching on to what Shireen said. But have we got any questions or something? Don't think so. I think you've done a fabulous job. Not that I would know, but you know.
Right, so while the toffee's just finishing off, we're going to put everything together, I think. So we've got hot chocolate. So if you're going outside on a cold night, you definitely need your hot chocolate, don't you? So hot chocolate. And then we'll put together some of the buns. Get around you. Thank you. I don't know what you do with that paper napkins. Oh, that's almost there. How long's that had now?
10, just under 20 minutes. 30. You know, having this smell around. So I smell of coffee every time I wear it.
Sausages. Looks like it's nearly done. Have a look. Have a look. Okay, so we've got hot dog sausages with onions and extras, and the treacle. It's just about there. Okay. So can you see that? So it sort of moves on its own as it sticks together. Yeah. So that then you just pour on the tin. Definitely thanks for sharing, folks. Please don't eat it all yourself. It's off the edge, that's why. I thought it was going one way. I knew you were useful. Should just fit. There you go. So as I say, you just leave that, walk away and leave it until it's cold. It takes about half an hour, something like that. I've never timed it. It's funny, isn't it? I will bring you some tomorrow. So if I was at home, I would put these under the grill just to finish them off. As they're basically there now. So this is one with roasted vegetables, one with bacon, leek and mushroom, and then finishing touch is marshmallows on the hot chocolate. There you go, bonfire treats.
That looks amazing. Thank you so much, Ali. Thank you, and to Mike as well, for your chief stirring. There he is again. Finally going to lick the spoon. Thank you for joining us on Cooking Like a Boss, and have a great week and enjoy your bonfire treats.